This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, May 30th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Trump tariffs briefly suspended by a panel of judges, allowed back in play after a federal appeals court decision. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A federal judge has extended an order blocking the Trump administration's attempt to bar Harvard University from enrolling foreign students. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The State Department is telling Congress about bigger cuts to programs and staff. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Immigration officials say 2 suspects in a deadly jet ski crash in Texas are in the country illegally. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, we get a fresh read on inflation today, and Costco's out with strong results. Watch that stock today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A Mississippi town's state of emergency, and Trump says no to a settlement offer. All ahead on America in the Morning. Legal back and forth over the Trump administration's tariffs, creating additional uncertainty over the future of the president's Liberation Day tariff plan that left a number of members of the Trump team raging at the court rulings. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
Less than 24 hours after a panel of judges temporarily blocked most of President Trump's tariffs on foreign governments, a federal appeals court stayed that decision, allowing the tariffs to go back into place while the legal process plays itself out. Trump has moved forward with these tariffs based on a federal emergency power law that the U.S. Court of International Trade on Wednesday said was illegal and ordered the government to stop collection within 10 days.
The president's rationale for imposing these powerful tariffs was legally sound and grounded in common sense.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the president had every right to use these powers to move forward with the sweeping tariff agenda.
These judges failed to acknowledge that the president of the United States has core foreign affairs powers and authority given to him by Congress to protect the United States economy and national security.
White House senior counselor Peter Navarro, speaking to reporters before the appeals court decision, lambasted the 3-judge panel that blocked the tariffs.
We are not naive about rogue justices in the judiciary and Democrats filing lawsuits. This has got to stop, by the way. This weaponization of the judiciary to stop President Trump from doing what he promised the American people, this has got to stop.
One of those judges was appointed by Trump, the president lashing out on social media at judges who have issued rulings like this against him, blaming the Federalist Society, a conservative legal organization, for recommending bad judges to him during his first term.
There is a troubling and dangerous trend of unelected judges inserting themselves into the presidential decision-making process. America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges.
Some foreign leaders and proponents of tariffs are concerned the legal back and forth will make it difficult for the administration to negotiate trade deals, a notion the White House downplayed yesterday. John Stolnis, Washington.
On the same day, Harvard University held their graduation ceremonies. A federal judge in Boston rules that the temporary restraining order on President Trump's ban on foreign students at the Ivy League school has been extended. As Lisa Dwyer reports, the ongoing confrontation between Harvard and the White House continues. Senator John Kennedy, speaking on Fox Business, says that the president has every right to withhold taxpayer dollars from a school which he says cannot be above the law.
The purpose of higher education is to teach you a variety of points of view. Harvard doesn't practice that. For example, they believe in racial quotas. Well, they're illegal. Harvard believes in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jewish people. Well, that's illegal. Now, they're entitled to believe what they want, but they're not entitled to break the law and still get taxpayer money.
A federal judge has extended an order blocking the Trump administration's attempt to bar Harvard University from enrolling foreign students. Harvard sued the Department of Homeland Security after Secretary Kristi Noem revoked its ability to host foreign students.
Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. You know, I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they are going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics?
The department had sent Harvard a letter demanding a range of records on those students. Harvard says they complied, but the government says that effort fell short. Harvard says the government failed to follow administrative procedures and regulations that dictate how schools may be removed from eligibility to host international students. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better with Sleep Number. Now, during the Memorial Day sale, all smart beds and bases are on sale, plus free home delivery exclusively at a Sleep Number store. Illegal immigrants blamed in the death of an Air Force cadet. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Smoke and haze in the forecast for the northern plains. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Several large wildfires are burning in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Canada today, and with a northwest wind becoming more prevalent in more of the north-central United States into the weekend, hazy conditions will become more noticeable and more widespread today and through Sunday as smoke from those fires spreads, with some risk for a hazy sky at times from at least the northeastern half of North Dakota and Iowa through much of Indiana, western Ohio, and just about all of Michigan. An area with the highest risk for some thicker smoke that could result in more expansive air quality issues is likely to develop, especially over northern parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, as well as the western upper peninsula of Michigan. In terms of today's precipitation, the vast majority of it will be focused on areas from the Gulf Coast through the eastern one-third or so of the nation, where a long-stalled front finally makes some eastward progress after days of severe weather in the southern plains, with today's most widespread risk for especially dangerous storms setting up from around New Orleans, north and east through southern Alabama, much of the Carolinas and Virginia, even as far to the north as Baltimore. These areas will face the risk for strong winds, hail, and tornadoes lasting into the evening hours. Thunder is also at least a possibility from Tennessee into Kentucky, Indiana, northern Illinois, eastern Wisconsin, and lower Michigan, as well as southern West Virginia, with showers in New England and mainly southern New York, with steadier rain from southern Pennsylvania into Maryland and northern West Virginia. Heat continues to expand in the west today, with some places likely to have the hottest day so far this year. In Nashville, it's looking cooler with some sun, along with showers and a thunderstorm, the high 73. For Burbank, California, today looks hot with lots of sun and a high of 94. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. While Elon Musk may be leaving the Department of Government Efficiency, it doesn't mean slashing employment at government offices is stopping. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports more cuts are being proposed at the State Department.
The State Department is telling Congress about bigger cuts to programs and staff. The proposal includes an even higher reduction of domestic staff than the initial 15%. The department is also planning to eliminate some divisions involved with the oversight of America's involvement in Afghanistan, including an office focused on resettling Afghan nationals who worked alongside the U.S. military. The letter sent to Congress says divisions are being eliminated that overlap work. It also says Secretary of State Marco Rubio believes effective modern diplomacy requires streamlining this bloated bureaucracy. The reorganization notes the dismantling of USAID and the shifting of some of its work to the State Department, particularly under a vastly restructured Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration. Ed Donahue, Washington.
2 illegal immigrants are behind bars in Texas for their alleged involvement in a deadly jet ski crash that claimed the life of an 18-year-old woman. The unfolding story continues with correspondent Clayton Neville.
Ava Moore was killed when the kayak she was riding in on Grapevine Lake outside Dallas was hit by a jet ski. Her family devastated and a community mourning.
We are so thankful for the countless messages and demonstrations of love and support, but most grateful for the many prayers we have received. This is a difficult time for all involved, but also an opportunity for our beautiful girl to continue to impact our community. Out of this tragedy, God will make good, and that only can be accomplished through forgiveness.
Immigration officials say 2 Venezuelan nationals were taken into custody days after the Memorial Day crash. The woman suspect and an alleged getaway driver left the scene after the accident. Joshua Johnson is with the ICE Dallas office.
Both individuals crossed the southern border in 2023 or 2024. They were arrested at the time of entry, processed for a notice to appear, and then released on their own recognizance.
Video from the lake shows a crowd trying to get the woman to stay behind before she managed to get away. Investigators say tips from the public led to both arrests. I'm Clayton Neville.
Coming up next, the business report with April home sale numbers, new unemployment claims, and U.S. economic growth data. America in the Morning continues after these messages. The business report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Friday Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after modest gains yesterday for the major averages. President Trump's tariffs have been reinstated by an appeals court for now, after being blocked by a different federal court. Some investors say the court fights might actually help the markets calm down a little.
I left work on a Friday thinking that there were going to be tariffs on Europe. I woke up on a Monday saying that that wasn't going to happen. It does slow down the uncertainty, which I think reduces some of the volatility.
Morgan Stanley's Jim Kieran on CNBC. Costco reported strong quarterly results after the closing bell last night. Ulta Beauty shares popped after hours, too, on strong quarterly results. But a different story at Best Buy, where the CEO says higher-priced items are already there because of tariffs. And Gap shares plunged after hours yesterday, when its CEO said tariffs will make a big dent in its profits. U.S. economic growth contracted in the first quarter for the first time in 3 years.
The important point to pull out of this is that there was a downward revision in consumer spending. This economy is a consumer-driven economy. That's the growth engine.
CNBC's Sarah Eisen. Jeep bringing back the discontinued Cherokee SUV. And there will be a hybrid version. Pricing not out yet. Some believe it'll be in the $36,000 to $40,000 range. And many experts say it'll probably be made in Mexico, which could make it more expensive because of tariffs. Pending home sales in April fell more than expected as the spring home buying season just crawls.
This count is based on signed contracts on existing homes during the month. That is, people out shopping when the stock market was on a roller coaster because of the tariff announcements, which all caused the average rate on the 30-year fix to jump to well over 7%. Now, regionally, sales fell across the nation, but hardest in the South and West. Now, inventory levels nationwide are hitting a 5-year high, but mortgage rates are still not coming down. We're right around 7%. Prices are easing in some regions, and that may prompt some potential buyers to wait longer to see if prices come down even more.
CNBC's Diana Olick. More Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week, more than expected, and well above the pre-pandemic normal. Continuing claims, that's the number of people who are still collecting checks week after week. That was higher, too, the most in 3 years, and it suggests it's taking people a lot longer to find their next job. Staples bringing back the easy button as part of its marketing for the chain's 20th anniversary. This is according to Office Products International. The buttons were a pop culture hit 20 years ago. Millions were sold. On today's watch list, we do get that fresh read on inflation. And new in theaters, Sony's Karate Kid Legends.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger, back Monday to start the week. Coming up on our Friday edition of America in the Morning, Trump declines lawsuit settlements. We're back after these messages. The town of Greenville, Mississippi, has declared a state of emergency and enacted a curfew after a college football player who called that town home was found shot to death inside his car. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports city leaders are dealing with an out-of-control surge of violence.
Baylor defensive lineman Alex Foster has died after he was found with multiple gunshot wounds in a car in his Mississippi hometown, the Washington County Coroner's Office confirmed to the AP. The Mississippi Clarion Ledger first reported Foster as being the victim of a shooting in Greenville after Baylor announced without a cause that Foster had died. The shooting was part of a surge in violent crimes that Greenville Mayor Eric D. Simmons said threatened the community. No arrests have been made. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
President Trump and Paramount Global are still at an impasse as they attempt to resolve his $20 billion lawsuit against the company through mediation. Fox News is reporting that Trump rejected a $15 million offer to settle his lawsuit. The president's legal team is also demanding at least $25 million for an apology from CBS News. Last October, Trump sued CBS News and Paramount for $10 billion over allegations of election interference involving the 60 Minutes interview of then Vice President Kamala Harris that aired weeks before the presidential election. But that lawsuit was increased to $20 billion. CBS News has denied any wrongdoing. America in the Morning for Friday, May 30th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
A new plan for more migrant arrests.
3,000 arrests for ICE every day.
I'm Rich Johnson.
But not certain Russia will agree to a ceasefire. I'm Clayton Neville.
It's graduation day at Harvard University. I'm Ed Donahue.
An update in the case of the man kidnapped for his cryptocurrency password. I'm Katie Clark with details.
Team discovers security flaw in Microsoft OneDrive. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Another blast from the past lands in movie theaters this week. I'm Kevin Carr.
A woman trapped inside a burning car near Phoenix was pulled out by an officer who happened to be driving by. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's an above-average precipitation outlook for most of the nation over the next 14 days. Here's today's forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
After days of a prolonged severe weather event that brought hundreds of hail and wind damage observations to the south, as well as a number of tornadoes, the highest severe weather risk finally shifts eastward today as an old stationary front finally gets a push toward the southeastern states. This means that as the area from southeastern Colorado into Oklahoma starts to dry out, and the severe risk turns more spotty from eastern New Mexico into West Texas, while a more general thunderstorm risk extends from the southern half of Texas into central Louisiana. Storms from southern Louisiana to the Jacksonville, Florida area, and northward through the Carolinas and the nation's capital bring the potential for hail, localized damaging winds, even some tornadoes into the evening hours. Today also brings no shortage of active weather to the northeast as another storm barrels its way out of the Midwest, with some showers in the area from New England through New Jersey and into central Pennsylvania, with a zone of steady rain south and west from there across southern Ohio that may include some thunder from West Virginia into Kentucky. Showers and thunderstorms stretch from there through lower Michigan and central and eastern parts of Wisconsin and Illinois, also much of Tennessee. Another day with a chance for a spotty afternoon thundershower is in store from the Colorado Rockies into east central Wyoming, but otherwise the story in the west will be the continuing expansion of summer-like heat. After highs from the upper 80s to the mid-90s throughout California's Central Valley on Thursday, highs from Sacramento to Bakersfield and well beyond are expected to spike into the triple digits both today and tomorrow. Very warm to hot conditions expand into places as far away from the west coast as western Montana and Wyoming and nearly all of Utah and Arizona. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Trump administration wants to significantly increase the number of arrests of people in the country illegally, and change is coming to make that happen. Details from correspondent Rich Johnson.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, appearing on Fox News, made the new goal very clear.
We are looking to set a goal of a minimum of 3,000 arrests for ICE every day.
That's 3 times the old quota and far above the around 650 daily arrests that ICE reported making up until now. Axios and other publications have reported that Miller delivered that goal to ICE and Homeland Security leaders during a meeting that Axios sources described as strained and tense. Now we learn that some top officials at ICE are leaving or being reassigned. That includes the man at the top of the division in charge of removal operations. Also, the head of Homeland Security Investigations is being moved to a new job at ICE. No comment from ICE on the personnel moves or the new White House directive. Meanwhile, ICE agents have been very busy around the country. More than 100 people working at a construction project in Tallahassee, Florida were detained. ICE detained at least 40 people in raids across the popular Massachusetts vacation islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. In San Francisco, some people appearing for routine immigration hearings were taken away after DHS attorneys asked immigration judges for custody redetermination. That allows agents to detain people even as they await their hearings. And in New York City,
they are just arresting everybody and they'll figure it out later.
Congressman Dan Goldman watched ICE agents arrest more than a dozen people outside the federal immigration court.
This is Gestapo-like behavior, where plainclothes officers wearing masks are terrorizing immigrants who are doing the right thing.
In comments courtesy of New York One, Goldman said he will demand answers from Homeland Security when he returns to Washington next week. I'm Rich Johnson.
The White House says President Trump hopes that peace negotiations slated for next week will move the ball forward on a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia as war rages between those two countries. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports this comes amid a large buildup of Kremlin troops near the Ukrainian border.
Attacks on Kyiv by Russia have increased in recent weeks as Moscow holds off on imposing a full 30-day ceasefire as proposed. The Kremlin wants shorter truces and more concessions.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Сьогодні вже
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video message that Russia's dragging out the war and doing everything it can to deceive countries who are using words opposed to pressure. Zelensky said Russia has staged some 50,000 troops on Ukraine's northern border, despite a united push by the U.S. and Ukraine to get a ceasefire deal done. Ukraine thinks Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing a massive summer offensive.
I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that.
President Trump said this week that it's not clear if Russia is willing to make a deal or not.
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
He did say it seems they want to do something.
But until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can.
According to the White House, Moscow proposed that the next round of direct talks be held June 2nd in Istanbul. It's not clear if there will be a direct meeting involving Presidents Trump and Putin. Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said this week on social media that Russia has launched 120 missiles, more than 1,500 drones, and over 2,500 guided bombs on Ukrainian cities. I'm Clayton Neville.
In the face of a lawsuit against the Trump administration over funding and visas for international students, Harvard University held its graduation ceremonies Thursday with calls by graduates and the school's hierarchy to stand strong. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
President Trump is trying to bar international students from attending Harvard and so on. So the judge essentially said, I'm going to keep this temporary restraining order in place and maintain the status quo so that there's some level of, or at least a lower level of uncertainty amongst the international student community, because the Harvard attorneys said that there's too much uncertainty right now.
Funding has been cut, and President Trump wants to cut off Harvard's enrollment of international students.
We leave a much different campus than the one we entered.
Graduate Thor Ryman talked about Veritas, truth.
I am proud to stand today alongside our graduating class, our faculty, and our president with the shared conviction that this ongoing project of Veritas is one worth defending.
Graduate Yuran Zhang talked about people who think differently or vote differently.
We're starting to believe those who think differently, vote differently, or pray differently, whether they are across the ocean or sitting right next to us, are not just wrong. We mistakenly see them as evil. But it doesn't have to be this way.
Harvard President Alan Garber did not directly touch on the Trump administration's threats. I'm Ed Donahue.
Coming up, alleged kidnap and torture in an attempt to retrieve a victim's password. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. The leaders of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates all argued against any strike by the United States against Iran's nuclear facilities and pressed the president to find a diplomatic solution. Axios is reporting that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Qatar's emir, and the president of the UAE all told President Trump they're concerned that if Iran's nuclear sites are targeted, that their countries, which all host U.S. military bases, could face Iranian retaliation. Trump has said that he believes the Iranian nuclear crisis can be solved with what he called a very strong document, which he says could be signed within the next 2 weeks. Some fear any retaliation by Iran to military action could have a severe impact on the price of oil. The Trump administration has canceled some pandemic flu research for an American-based drug company. Details from correspondent Donna Warder.
The Trump administration has canceled a $766 million award to drug maker Moderna to develop a vaccine against potential pandemic influenza viruses. Moderna says it was notified Wednesday that Health and Human Services had withdrawn funds to pay for development and purchase of such an investigational vaccine that would include H5N1 bird flu. It would be an mRNA vaccine using the same technology that allowed its development of vaccines to fight COVID-19. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has expressed deep skepticism regarding mRNA vaccines, but there's real-world evidence that the vaccines are safe and have saved millions of lives. Moderna had just announced positive interim results from an early-stage trial of the vaccine that targeted H5 bird flu virus. I'm Donna Warder.
2 New York City police detectives were placed on modified duty after the department learned they had a prior connection to a Manhattan townhouse where an Italian crypto businessman was allegedly held and tortured. The latest on developments in this story from correspondent Katie Clark.
There is an update to the story about an Italian man who was tortured and held captive for 17 days in a New York City townhouse owned by John Waltz with friend William Duplessis, who were trying to gain access to the Italian man's Bitcoin password. The unnamed Italian man arrived to the U.S. in early May and was held captive in Waltz's New York City townhouse. He was tortured and forced to do drugs in an attempt for them to gain access to his Bitcoin password. Waltz and Duplessis have been arrested and are currently in custody. John Waltz had 2 New York City police detectives working for him as personal security. One of the detectives even picked up the Italian man at the airport and drove him to the townhouse. The officers did not have authorization from the department to work for Waltz, which is standard protocol for officers concurrently working for the city. Michael Alcazar, a professor and retired NYPD detective, speaking on WCBS TV, CBS 2 in New York, on why the detectives may not have gotten approval for side work.
They probably don't want to report it because maybe they feel like it won't be approved because of the nature of the work, right? Let's just give an example. Maybe the company they're working for has some dealings with the city, so that's not authorized.
The detectives aren't being investigated for the crypto kidnapping scheme, but they've been stripped of their badges and guns and are on desk duty until further notice for violating the rules on side work. I'm Katie Clark.
Despite previous claims that the United States has officially accepted the luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from Qatar, the United States and Qatar have not yet finalized the details of the agreement. The White House legal team is currently working on details of the gift, putting together a memorandum of understanding. The Washington Post is reporting that the plane from Qatar is currently in the United States, with the Qatari government wanting to clarify details surrounding the transfer, specifically emphasizing that the Trump administration was responsible for initiating the discussions about the donation of the luxury jet to the U.S. government. America in the Morning continues. If you're one of the millions of people who use Microsoft OneDrive every day, a research group has discovered a big security hole that could leave your data vulnerable. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
A vulnerability in Microsoft's OneDrive file picker has been found, which could allow bad actors to access people's entire cloud archives. A security team from Oasis discovered the flaw and reported it to Microsoft, noting that the problem lies in excessive permissions that the file picker asks for. The file picker tool in OneDrive allows websites and applications to integrate directly with the cloud storage solution. This could allow someone to spoof a screen and show misleading content, asking for permission to access files that is not made clear. The Oasis research team explained that this flaw could have severe consequences, including customer data leakage and a violation of compliance regulations. They further stressed that a number of popular apps like ChatGPT or Slack are also affected since they integrate with OneDrive. At the time of this story, Microsoft has acknowledged the flaw, but has not offered a solution. For more tech news, follow me on X @ChuckPalm.
It's Friday and sports is in. Here's Robert Workman.
The Stanley Cup Finals will be a rematch from last year. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Stars 6-3 in Dallas last night, winning the West Final in 5 games. Edmonton jumped ahead 3-0 early, and the Stars never caught up, losing the West Final for a 3rd consecutive year. Meanwhile, for the 2nd year in a row, the final showdown will be the Oilers against the Panthers. Florida won the first 3 games last year, then Edmonton rallied to force a Game 7 before the Panthers raised the cup. NBA playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals in New York, the Knicks stayed alive with a 111-94 wire-to-wire win over the Pacers, 32 points for Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, we just had some energy in the way we played, and I'm just very proud of what we did. We just got to replicate it in the first quarter of the next game and then continue to build on that. Indiana leads that series 3-2 and can clinch a spot in the NBA Finals versus Oklahoma City with a win at home tomorrow night. The Knicks hope to get back to the Garden for a Game 7 on Monday. Baseball, the Blue Jays buried the A's 12-0, belting 4 home runs, 2 of them in an 8-run second inning. Ernie Clement started that onslaught with a 3-run shot and capped it with a 2-run double. Meanwhile, Jose Barrios and 2 relievers held the Athletics to just 4 hits. Nationals scored 7 times in the 10th to sink the Mariners 9-3. Josh Bell wrapped up the rally with a 3-run dinger. Rays ran roughshod over the Astros 13-3. Junior Caminero doing the bulk of the damage with a homer and 6 RBI. And the Phillies and Braves split. Philadelphia took the day game 5-4, sparked by backup catcher Rafael Marchand, who homered, drove in the go-ahead run in the 8th when he was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded, and caught 2 runners stealing. Atlanta won under the lights 9-3. Chris Sale became the fastest pitcher to reach 2,500 strikeouts, needing just 2,026 innings. That's about 80 fewer than Randy Johnson. At the French Open, Novak Djokovic fought through a toe blister to advance to the 3rd round. Americans Coco Gauff, Jessica Pegula, and Madison Keys, the 2, 3, and 7 seeds, all straight set winners. That's Friday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, a look at the weekend box office and a heroic attempt to save a woman from a burning car. Next, after these messages. Heading to theaters this weekend, it's time to debut a new Karate Kid with some very familiar faces. Entertainment correspondent Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Karate Kid Legends.
The original Karate Kid returns to the big screen to train a new protege.
Let's make a Karate Kid.
Karate Kid Legends follows the previous film's template. A teenager moves to a new city with his mother and attracts the attention of some neighborhood bullies.
You can't step to guys like him. He wins the 5 boroughs every year. It's the biggest tournament in the city.
Eventually, he has to fight in a martial arts contest to prove himself.
I'm doing this for all of us. Whatever it takes.
The greatest strength of this film is when it pushes the same buttons from the original. It does lay the bullying on a bit thick, but that works for the pulpy build of the secondary characters. Overall, this makes for a breezy underdog story.
In life, you have only one question. Is it worth fighting for it?
The film tries some new angles, like the kid teaching kung fu to an aging boxer, played by Joshua Jackson, doing his best George Clooney impression. These elements make the film a bit crowded, and you might find yourself checking your watch until Ralph Macchio shows up. However, they help this not to be just a cheap retread.
You have a foundation of kung fu.
We're going to build upon that with karate.
Ancient way.
Miyagi way. There's two of them.
Not as iconic as the original, it's still an entertaining way to capitalize on the success of Cobra Kai.
You really want to do this?
Karate Kid Legends gets 3.5 wax-ons out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
In a case of being in the right place at the right time, a police officer was driving and saw a car on fire and someone screaming for help. Lisa Dwyer reports on the heroic rescue of the daughter of a firefighter by a Goodyear, Arizona officer who says he was merely doing his job.
A woman trapped inside a burning car on an interstate near Phoenix was pulled out by an officer who happened to be driving by. Officer Dakota Berry could hear honking coming from the car and realized someone was still stuck inside. Berry rushed to get a glass-breaking tool and used it to knock out the driver's side window. Then the woman's feet popped out.
Get out, get out, get out! Get out!
But her hair was on fire. Berry grabbed her legs and pulled her out to safety. She was admitted to a burn center in critical condition, but is expected to survive.
I ended up finding out when I actually got back to the hospital that she was a Goodyear fire's daughter. Again, pretty ironic. All I have is that I wish prayers for her and her family and for her speedy recovery.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
There are angels among us. America in the Morning for Friday, May 30th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.